You just saw me, right? Well, you saw my hands, real test style, right? Just had a video out, ultralight BFS combos, rods. This is now kind of general BFS, what I call, I don't even know, I haven't really named it. It's just my regular mid-range BFS stuff, that kind of thing. I'm just showing you my kind of take on it, what I have so far for it, and so on and so forth. So I have one more video coming out. I don't know if it's going to be today because I'm working on 1,000 videos. So just out of your range, be looking for that video. What better thing to talk about? The 1,000 Bass and Bonsai videos. We'll talk about the zillion 1,000, right? My in-depth look, overall take, that kind of thing. So be looking forward to that video. The last video we talked about how ultralight BFS, it's kind of easy to classify. It's way down here. It's throwing the lightest, littlest of things with the rods are already pretty much marked. Usually if it says ultralight, super ultralight, some of these lights could kind of go there, but you know what rods. Reels, I guess I didn't even mention in that video, I probably should have. I showed you the rods I use and you can kind of get an idea that in my mind you need to start with like a 6 gram or lighter spool. The only exceptions would be like your Aldebaran or your Conquest. Stuff with the FTB is really it. Now I'm not saying you can't throw, you're just going to struggle once you start throwing those little bitty, you know, small lightweight baits on ultralight rods with heavier spools than say 6 grams. You know, you try to throw with that regular mag track style, which what do we have? The Zephyr, the MK9. There's several reels out there. They're still good reels, and they can be used for BFS, and they can get you there, but you will struggle a little. So in this class, this is our just general BFS. You might have a real heavy spool, but you know you've matched it up right to a rod that's got a lot of flex, and you can still get the job done, and it just feels good. You put together a combo. You may have a perfect middle section, or you may have one that's on one extreme or the next, but then it kind of comes together. And I want to talk about how I don't recommend taking a heavy spool and putting it with the real ultralight rod thinking you're going to be in that mid-range. I think that's the opposite way to go. I think you can take, you know, a decent spool and maybe a kind of like a 522 Eshua or a more moderate flex rod, kind of like this homemade job I got here. You know, or like your fiberglass rods. Some of your rods that have a lot of bend, but they're not, they don't have that, you know, real fast tip that's going to tend to shoot the bait out real fast, because the problem that happens there is if you create too much spool speed right at the very start, but then that, you know, you get that big spool fired up, but then that little lightweight bait slows down real quick, that's where your problems come with, well, in all fishing in general, but it really rears its ugly head even more so when you're coming into the BFS stuff. So I'm just going to start this video on talking about probably my favorite all around, covering the whole spectrum of BFS that can get the job done. The Cane Teton, see that number right there, TTC661L. Now yes, they don't really, you can't get a 661 anymore, but back in the day you could get this off AliExpress for about $100. It was like 98 something. And now the two-piece, which is I still recommend because it should be the overall same, get the job done the same way this rod does it. I don't know, maybe a touch heavier, I have no idea, I've never handled one. But if it's on the same blank and it's just stuck together in two pieces, as most of the other Tetons I've had are two pieces, you can't really tell they're a two-piece rod once you got them stuck together. They feel good. But this rod, and let's look at the specs one more time. 6'6", 2 to 10 grams, 3 to 8 pound line. I've always ran 10-pound line on this. This rod's caught my personal best largemouth bass, 7 pounds, 12 ounces. I know we're in the Midwest. It's not a giant in some places, but to me and around here, that is a giant bass. But this is a rod that's capable well over its ratings. Now 2 grams is about right going down. It'll throw the 1.7. Well, here I got one right here. It'll go out and throw this no problem. I think when you're dealing with little treble hooks like that, I'm not saying you can't do it, but I don't plan on fishing it. It'll cast this as far as those other ultralight rods you saw in the last video. It'll cast this as far, a lot of times actually further. But then it comes to, and you can, have your drag set. Say if you wanted to put a rod that has 6-pound line, 4-pound line on the King Teton 6.6 1 or 2, you can, and as long as the drag's not too tight. But I'm telling you, you'll have more fun with a little bit rod. The 522 SUL is way better for this, and the fun you're going to have catching the little fish that are probably going to hit this. But it can do it. I just wanted to kind of stress that it can get there. But these rods and reel combos here, and I honestly only have this one is still a work in progress. If you remember right, the personal best I caught was with the PW100. I've since kind of turned that into a little ultralight only, because it like I talked about, it has that purple spool is like 6 something grams. Even though it has MagTrack style braking, it's capable of throwing ultralight stuff, so I've got it kind of rigged up for ultralight. This is the Alpha Zito AI. This spool is nowhere near as capable as what I would call a modern BFS spool. This is just a finesse custom spool in the Alpha Zito AI. It's got the fixed rotor, does not move. It kind of has it's too heavy of a spool, but it does have good braking. It's just, I don't know. And for this rod, it'll definitely work for the higher end of what this rod can do. But if I'm trying to throw, an all-purpose combo I'm trying to build, this may not be the best reel for it. Now, I can get an aftermarket spool, but I don't know if I'm going to put more money into this reel. I'm honestly keep telling myself to just sell it. I got it, cleaned it up. We put the spool and the side cover because the other one was cracked. So I just can't decide what I want to do. It is a good working filling combo, but the spool in this reel limits its casting down capabilities, down in weight. So this is still, you may find the Teton I plan on using. I've kind of went away, and the next stage of rod you'll see, I'm going up into like the more power BFS is what I'll call that. And I know it's going to trigger a lot of people, but this is not, but you can power BFS, but this is my regular BFS. And I only really have 2 rods, and they're on the light class. This is also a light rod, but it's the most capable on the higher end light rod that I've found in the BFS rods. Now, there's the one that everybody keeps talking about, the Dobbins 7-foot whatever, is probably up there in a very good rod. But what is it, $150, $170? Hard to get. 7-foot, they're definitely not me. You won't see me fishing with the Dobbins. I thought about getting one just so you guys could see me fishing with one and all that, but I just know I do not like a rod longer than 6'10". I just don't. I actually like 6'8" or shorter. I'll deal with 6'10", but 7-foot, they just feel, even if I balance them, they're just too much. I don't need that. I don't fish big enough water enough times. If I was only on bigger lakes fishing, you'd probably see a whole different lineup of rods in my arsenal. But I fish mainly smaller bodies of water, small lakes, big ponds. I'll fish little ponds. Hey, don't judge me. I'll fish little ponds, big ponds, little lakes typically. I'll go to a big lake. Usually, I had a big boat back in the day. I don't know. The little creeks and streams, the pond, all that kind of stuff. I like doing that kind of fishing. So this is the group I need to grow the most, because I've kind of which I do have. There's a lot of my ultralight stuff that you just saw in the last video. It can come in here and fish this area. There's a lot of my power BFS, that feeling rod that I've talked about. It can come down here and fish a lot of what this would do. It's a little bit overpowered because that is one heck of a rod. And the Tatula rod I've talked about. Those are powerful rods. They'll throw real little baits. The feeling's more of a fully, moderate flexing. The Tatula is a very extra fast tip. But so I'm trying to put together stuff that is like that, just that, feels good in this midsection. So my favorite rod for this, other than this rod, which I've had a few years now, would be the CU double for the money, especially because you can still get this rod on AliExpress about $81, $85, depends if you catch it on sale or not. This rod is $37 all the time, I think, and you can get it as cheap as $35. Comes with 2 tips. I like the light tip. This is the light tip. If I put the ultralight tip on it, honestly, I'd probably leave it here. I probably wouldn't even put it with the ultralights because it is capable of throwing, but it just has enough backbone, being a 6-foot rod. I just have it more in your regular BFS. I wouldn't really put it even in the ultralight category. Just for that reason, just because it has more power, just like the Toma rod. I don't have the Toma up here, but I'll show you what I've done. The Toma rod is the only other rod that I really have that feels real good that I picked up in that what I call the mid-range. All the others were like ultralights. But I've actually taken the tip, because it fits, off the Toma, and I put on here. So this is not the ultralight tip that came with this rod. It's the Toma, and it's, even though it's a solid tipped, you know, in the light, this is more almost like both of these almost are like what I hate to say crankbait rod, but that's almost what I'll use them for. They got a more, they're not a extra fast action, and they feel real good. They'll throw a lot of stuff. But the reason I switched to this, I like this handle assembly just because it feels a little more, I think they look about the same. That Toma rod you guys have seen me, I had to change out the handle. I put a different cork on it. But this one just, I don't know. I put this, the Gringle. You guys know the Gringle, right? If you haven't seen that video, go check it out where I changed, put the green on. This just feels, and I don't know. I think it'll just work better. It actually has this section, the bottom section, has just a touch more flex than that Toma rod. I mean, just a hair, but it gives this more of a crankbaity feel, just more of a, but it's not whippy. It gives it more of a flexy rod though, kind of like the Teton. It kind of makes it feel closer to the what a Teton, a complete hollow body, feels like in the light, and maybe even a little more flexy than the CU double. CU double is a real lightweight, more of a crisp feel, but this one feels good now. I like it. I like it a little better than the regular Toma. So these are for sure the two you'll see. Those 2 combos. Let me move these over a little bit. So I'm still working on, not really reels, because I already know the reels. I can always pick up another one of these if I want to, you know, because this is where the lingle, it'll go, you know, because I run 10-pound test on these, my regular BFS, I'm running 10-pound test on all the reels. Now I can switch the leader material. I may go 10-pound, 8-pound, 6-pound. But I probably won't go any lower than 6. Then I'll just be on the ultralight. Might as well be throwing something ultralight if I feel like I need to go that low in weight. So I've got these other rods. This is the homemade one. It fits right in there, but I hardly ever fish this rod. This is like my luckiest rod, but you know me. I'm such an excellent fisherman. I don't need luck. But yeah, it usually ends up being, because everybody likes the feel of this rod. I think it almost helps them cast. It has so much flex in the whole blank. But it's always usually like a loner type rod. This rod I still may. It was only that $20, just called fishing rod. I could put a lingle on it, and it does. But I already have like enough of and it's a real flexy rod, kind of like a crankbait rod. So I'm still kind of looking for. I don't really need anything. I mean, these 2 and this rod, like, it's pretty much covered with just 3. But I kind of want to put together one more. And I'll tell you what I'm wanting, I guess. And I'm going to try to remind myself the flex of this. I guess I'm trying to find another, and here's how I may get there. I may actually buy another CU double and change out this whole handle assembly, which is basically like by cutting all this off without damaging the blank, and then just putting on my own reel seat and then handle on another CU double. just to get a different. It's going to do the same stuff, but then I'll have two of that exact. I could buy like the real test. You've seen you bought two of these. I don't want two of these ugly handles. I've kind of gotten used to this one, and I don't mind it, and it does feel very good. The the length that they've designed this, the everything about it is nice. I wish that was some sort of other color EVA. Here's a thought. Just a, I don't know, just another EVA. Other than that crazy brown, I do not like that. It feels okay. It looks cheap. It's the cheapest looking thing on this rod. Actually, this doesn't even, this is just a weird color that they chose since nobody else does this brown. Honestly, if it would have been a lighter brown, I probably would think it would have looked better. But it doesn't really look cheap, and it feels good. This real seat looks cheap because it's not cut out, and it is cheap. I'm sure that's as cheap as a real seat as you could get. So I'm thinking about changing out. And honestly, if I get it changed out and it went well enough, I may change both out. So I'm thinking about getting another CU double for $35 and finding a real seat or picking one of these old ones that is on a rod blank that I absolutely hate. Why won't that thing focus? So I like this handle assembly. I like the overall feel of that rod. I love the feel of this rod. I love the feel of the handle. I hate how that looks. I got it, I guess, tolerable with the Aldebaran. The Aldebaran BFS feels very good on there. Very good setup there. The Charles loves this rod. The delicacy, I don't know what it is about it. I changed the handle, but I still can't make myself. I don't know what it is. There's just something about this rod. You guys have seen, over the years, in the last, you guys have seen me take very good stuff like the clamber. Real, I just could not get used to. Why won't this thing focus? But the clamber reel, there's several other things. I don't know. Something about them. I can't get used to them. Kind of like the Cast King Zephyr reel. Love the rod. Do not like the reel. And some of these other rods, overall, I don't like them. But I can't get myself to. It's not that I don't like it. Every time I put a reel on it, I kind of liked it okay with this reel. With the light tip. And it's very capable, but I want to say it's almost too stiff at the tip. It's got a lot of flex. I'd almost classify this rod as not even being in the BFS class. When you put the light on it, it does feel more like a medium crankbait rod. It just has that feel. So what I should do, but it's only 6 foot, what I should do is just just use it like that. I should probably put this reel on it and not even really classify it BFS. Just throw my, bigger cranks, like the big regular size Mega Bass S Waver, half-ounce rattle traps, that kind of stuff. And that's a possibility what I'll do with this delicacy. Because in all honesty, it with the ultralight tip, then it's almost too soft at the tip. So I don't know. This is still, I'm trying to find a sweet spot, a place for it in my lineup, because I do like the rod. I'm just trying to, it does not feel like any of these other rods as far as when you put the light tip on it. Definitely complete opposite. This rod I would call almost in the ultralight class, but barely touching into the light. And this one I would call in the heavy medium or medium light class with the, so yeah, they're totally different. So with only having for sure two that I love the feel of, like those combos feel awesome. This one, I don't know. I guess I could buy another one of these that I'm getting ready to talk about and stick on that 661. Or find something with I don't know. I'm going to try to use this more for those small, like the micro chatter baits, the 6 gram, and let's just start talking about baits now. We'll jump to baits. As you've seen, I'm having some dilemmas with the combos that putting together in this class, but I guess you'd kind of start out in here with cranks, like 4 grams. This would also be a good spot for your 4 gram, the poppers, the little Sonora poppers, little 4 gram cranks or whatever, up to like these guys, 6 grams. So probably from there to there, a little 1/4 ounce also like, well, the Dig It, you know, a little bit size bigger than this. I can't remember how, is he 6 or 8 grams? But somewhere in there, probably 4 to 8 grams is just a rough general area of what I would recommend. Just your regular light, your some medium lights you might find that are light enough to put in here, but usually if they're JDMs type stuff, a lot of your lights even become too heavy for this class as far as you're throwing. They almost feel like a medium on certain other rods that you're used to. So that's Power BFS. This isn't here. This is just a regular BFS stuff, which I don't have a lot of for whatever reason. So as far as jigs, I guess your little, I don't have a lot of baits out here to show you, but like your little, like this guy is perfect for this area. It's the micro, but it's got a pretty good hook, and you once you put a little bit bigger swim bait, it's good for this. But and then you could put a little one too. You know, you could get down to the, well, I don't have one quite big enough, but I'll just show you. They make these little slider things in like a bass slider, walleye slider. Those would work good on here. I don't have them out. The TRD bugs are what my main thing between these little swim baits and those TRD bugs on these micros, but that's roughly an idea of this area. Like once you get into, well, I don't know, one could argue you can throw these baits. I've just been getting these little, anything smaller than a 3/8 ounce chatter baits. 3/8 and up, you just want to use on regular gear. You can use on Power BFS, but regular gear. But like these other ones, no. But this Teton, which like I mentioned, covers everything. This is definitely a thing that I'll probably be throwing. You'll see me. The Teton's one of those rods that just covers. It crosses. It goes across the BFS spectrum, and it'll throw regular size baits. So you know you got a BFS combo put together that can throw regular baits within a certain limitations. Like I mentioned, these are the baits I got off AliExpress, and they're actually, I think, a little lighter than 3/8 ounce. But they do have a big hook still. That's the only downside. And it's one of those things, sometimes you just got to get out and try it. You know, go out, fish start hitting or whatever, maybe throw this on the Teton. I would not want to throw it with, I throw it with this thing. That's one thing, the delicacy, you could throw this. And I may try to do that, figure out possibly the delicacy with the MK9 would be perfect for this. It's a light rod with a lot of flex, but it's pretty stout. So a lot of times that's what you want with the chatterbait. You want something that once you set, you know, power enough to set a hook, say like this, and I don't even know what size that is. It's, I want to call it a 2, but not a, but it's not, whoa, it's not light wire. Here, I'll try to show you. Here is a 2, very light wire compared to a lot of baits, the shaky heads I use, VMC. So it's actually, let me try to let that focus, get them. You see how it would actually fit inside there, but it's a lot thicker. So you can set the hook with this, even with the bait on it. So yeah, that I would definitely say this rod for sure, but not. I wouldn't mess with trying to throw this. And I may mess with it, but if I was you, I wouldn't recommend messing with the CU double or the Toma with the light tip. But the delicacy with the light tip and the light Tetons, I don't think I have an issue setting a hook on something like that. So that's just showing you the extreme from one side. Now crankbaits or anything trebled baits, they're a little different. And I don't, this isn't, I guess this would be a perfect size bait you could throw like a little jerk bait type thing. But see that size hook? That, and even the smaller ones, is where all this type of fishing would be. You know, that's probably the extreme to the bigger size. This is a pretty lightweight bait, probably hard to throw with regular gear. I just had it sitting here. It came, I don't even know. I guess, did I order that? I don't know where it came from. Anyway, it was sitting right there. All right, guys, I'm going to end this video, keep it under a half hour. So they're still working the projects, just regular BFS stuff. Now, all the reels you've seen in the other video can fit here. This is kind of a rod thing, like your light rods. So you got ultralight, then you got light, then you got power BFS, which could be a heavier, like probably this rod, a heavier light, probably this rod also, or, you know, medium light, even some of your medium regular bait casting gear, like the 802 NRX, as you'll see the videos coming up. But your regular BFS needs to have some sort of BFS reel, and then like I mentioned, a light. Some of your heavier ultralights, so like if you remember the pink rod, that rod I could put right in here and fish with these guys more. I wouldn't have it in ultralights. The John Koo Vivid is a perfect example. One would be right up here. I could throw with that chatterbait probably just showed you. I wouldn't have an issue fishing that chatterbait with it and these 6 gram baits, but I wouldn't have an issue going down to this little bait. Like I mentioned, there's several of the combos would throw this little dude, like this rod for sure. The CU double would have no issue throwing that. It just becomes a fun factor, like catching the fish with that. You know, you're not going to get, I'm not saying you can't catch big fish. These can haul in a big fish. This can, but more likely, no. You're going to be throwing this looking for little stuff. That's why I recommend ultralight. But most of these combos might still be able to do this. Like in a pinch, you're going, you know, you just discover like, oh, they're hitting the smallest, the littlest of things. And, you know, there's no problem with downsizing until you get to the size that you will start catching fish. So that, either of these with the ultralight tip wouldn't be bad for this. So if you're on AliExpress looking, CU double, Toma, I'd start there. Delicacy, I can't say no to it, but on the Tettons you've got several options. In this range, my favorite by far Tetton of them all is a 661 or 2. The next would be the 522 SUL, then the 632 ultralight, which used to be my favorite, but now that I have more rods, the 632 does everything any of these rods will do. It just doesn't do it as well as like this will on the upper end and the 522 will on the other end, same way for some of these others. So anyway, hopefully you guys liked that video. I'll clarify more if I get a couple more combos put together, because I like to have 4 or 5 before I can really kind of give you a better description of what I'm talking about. The next batch coming up, there'll be a little better range. You'll probably see this rod still thrown in it. You may even see this rod just talked about in that one. But you're going to see the Feeling, the Conquest, the Tatula, and I think there might be another one. I know, a guy's got too many rods when he can't remember all the rods he owns, right? So anyway, hopefully you like this one. Hello again, Paul. Let me read these things. No, the Cast King Valiant rod, I almost pulled the trigger on one and then they went off sale. They got down to $62. Now they're $87. Now, I don't know 100%, but by watching Jimmy from Raw Fishing, if you like the Zephyr and you would like to have just that tip a little stiffer, then the Valiant Eagle BFS rod may be the one for you, because he called it a little stiffer tip. And I'm not sure if he liked it. It's hard to tell if he really actually liked that rod or not. But it's 3-piece in the 5'6". They make I'm gonna say they make a 5 foot that's 2-piece and a 4.5 foot that's 2-piece. So if the time ever comes and that 5 foot 2-piece comes on sale, I will buy it. If they make a 5'6" in a 2-piece, I would have bought that. So I would like to try that. It's a good looking rod. I've heard that it works pretty good, but no. Oh yeah, Pampi Santiago. It's so annoying the reel lock is not flush on the Tetton when you put a reel on it. Well, here's what I did to my Tetton. I'll show you before I get out of here. Now this, like, I don't know if you're talking about here, because I don't think that's one thing about the Tettons. And if you haven't noticed, I've been messing around. I even took the one off the Conqueror and I put it on the CU double. But I also tore this thing apart. It was getting so old that the little seam was starting to show. And so I went in with my X-Acto knife and I just finished taking it off. But this Tetton, I never could see what this was. And some reels it'll go down a little more or a little up. But it had an extra thing. It left it way up here. So all I did, I'll try to show you. In order to get it, you know, to let that show, let me see if I can get another reel. Let's just put this. You'll see it coming up in a video. I think this has a pretty short. So I cut that off, you know, I separated it, and there was another layer. I don't know what I did with that. Actually, wait, right here. I did it not too long ago. There was another layer in there. Then there was another one of the dark brown ones on the other side. So it was that much longer. And as you see here, when I tighten this down, so I fixed that. That's what it should do at least. Kind of puts it right there at the edge. So you, well, let me see if I can get it. See how you can just see if you're looking at the front, you can make out what's in there. Before it was like out here, you couldn't make out none of that. So, and on different rods, it'll move just a little bit, but that's about where it should have been in the first place. So I had to take that much out of it. So I don't know if he was talking about when you put a reel on, like this should also disappear, which it's hard to get that part, but yeah, they could have put something that doesn't leave exposed threads. Like for me, that doesn't bother me at all. But what's cool about some of these Tettons, and I guess if some of you guys don't know, like all of your Tetton rods, not the Conquerors, but some of the littler Conquerors with the smaller blank. Once the blank gets too thick, this isn't possible. But that Tetton, and I love the eyes on the Tettons. That's the first one they start with. See how small that is? And let me spin one of these others around and show you. Because here, now the CU double is sort of small, but here's what a lot of your cheaper AliExpress rods start with. And I'm going to show you the difference. You see the difference there? This is all you need to start with. This rod cast, the Tetton rods cast excellent, and they start with a small. First guide, second guide, the first three, I'll show you just real quick. On the 661, probably the 2. The first 3 are that double foot thing, and then they jump right to a small. But then they never go to a true micro crazy. They kind of a micro, but I don't have a problem with my tag. You know, I'd use a leader with it being an issue. But when you are dealing with this kind of reel seat that's got the bigger opening, it just lets you slide it right off the rod. See that? Nothing touch, just whoop, right off the rod. So you could actually, if you say you bought, and like me, I have 3 different ones, you can switch a lot of different, you can change up your rod. It's kind of just a way to, you switch it back or do whatever. You know, this is intense. You got to like cut the whole handle off and it's permanent. But it's kind of cool to be able to just switch that. And they should have, and they didn't. They should have made all these, this part should have been the same on almost all the Tettons, and they didn't. And for whatever reason, on the 632, another reason I don't like it, it doesn't have this reel seat. It's got more like the CU double. It's not coated. It's the same kind of material like this. It's not black. It's more of a dark gray. But it's just like this. It's a little better one than that, but I wish they would have made the 632 just like this. A couple of your Conquerors, the 6.8 or medium light and the 6.5 light are like this. But the 6.5 light is a soft touch. The 6.8 medium light wasn't. But yeah, I wish they'd make all this soft touch too, like this rod right here. This rod, this and this part are soft touch. Got that little softer feel. This is a nice rod. This is $20 rod. This is an $80-some rod. And other then they chinsed out on the guides. The guides is where this rod lost its luster. But for 20 bucks, it's one thing I probably need to teach myself how to do. Strip a rod, the guides off of it, and put new guides on it. And all I really need to do is I know how to do it. I just need to buy one of those things that once I glue it all up, that I dry it. Now, my wraps wouldn't look as good as this. I could get them close probably. And then, once you get that thing on, get the glue on, the trick is basically just to get it and don't, oversplash it. But if you get too much, you can, as it's turning, you can kind of come in with a rag and get it, off and then just leave it to dry. I've watched several videos. I've watched it done over the years. It's probably something I should start doing, especially on some of these cheaper rods. Because you get a pretty good rod that has horrible eye placement, or maybe it wasn't, it's just not right. Now, if you go to putting, you get one that's off on the, what you call it. Once it's glued up, if say the backbone is wrong, so say if the handle is glued on and the spline, you figure out the spline's off, then you're kind of screwed. But if you just get a few eyes that are, like this one, this is a perfect example of one I'd love to change. This has double footed, they're not bad, but they're so tall. This is back in the day where they thought they needed to be way up and tall. So, which in a sense, and it needs more. They're too heavy for no more than they're on there. This is a perfect rod that would be an example. It would be one of the first ones I do. I probably should do it just to test it out. But would I take any of the luck out of it? Who knows? Might want to just leave that thing alone. Just fish it. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, hello, Jay. Jay's got to leave. Do you glue the extra magnets? Oh, no. Don't glue no magnets. No, anytime you're adding the magnets, I don't have one of those reels right up here real quick. But no, on the magnets hold to the other magnet. So if that fix for the Dark Wolf Ultra or the Black Knight 2, you get them 4 by 0.5. And I guess I could show you mine. I bought 200 of them. I gave Jay some, Charles some. No, I'm not giving you guys any, but I got all these left. Hey, I may buy a bunch more Dark Wolf Ultras or something down the years. I definitely won't have an issue with worrying about magnets. But these just stick, just like the others sticking to their cells. They will not fall off. Once you stick one of those, I think there's 2 there together. They are very thin, 4 by 0.5 millimeter. But you just drop. They'll stick 3 on each side, and you are good to go. All right, guys, get out of here. Go back some Bonsai. I got one more video to do today. My thousandth. I can't say that word. Bass and Bonsai is going to reach 1,000 videos today, whether I can say it or not, and it's going to be done with the Daiwa Zillion. Is it the best reel Daiwa has ever made? Is it the best reel ever made? Stay tuned and find out. Thanks for watching, guys. Get out of here. Is it a reel I should use in this, what I call regular mid-range BFS? Just BFS reel. Will it work? Stay tuned. Oh, and thanks, Paul. I'm out.